Hi, guys. Welcome to my podcast. This is episode 5. My name is Albert, and let's begin. Today I'm going to talk about Shazam. This is a movie I've recently seen in the cinema, and I'm just going to share a few of the things which I thought about the movie when I was watching it. Um, well, straight off the bat, we all know the storyline. It's about a kid meets a wizard. The wizard gives him powers. It takes him a while to understand the powers, take responsibility. He has a quirky sidekick. Sidekick has issues walking, but he's funny. And at the very end, everyone has powers. That's pretty much my cynical take on the whole situation. But compared to the previous DC films, I must say I enjoy this film more so than the previous ones. Man of Steel, for me, the very first Superman I felt was decent, but the rest after that were pretty terrible. So this is a nice change of pace. I enjoyed the performances. There might have been a bit too much of a Disney feel to the whole situation with the Foster family. Everyone having their own specific typecast and playing them quite heavily. But it's a kids' movie, so I forgave it. Um, I enjoyed how the powers were being transferred. The idea that it wasn't some kind of, I don't know, thing of suffering to obtain the powers. It was merely just grabbing a stick and yelling out a name. I enjoy the potential mythology that perhaps, you know, led up to that. I'd be curious to find out more about the previous wizards that existed and why they find it so difficult to transfer their powers onto anyone else. Um, I've yet to research the whole extent of the abilities based on the comic books, but I imagine it's by the looks of the very end of the movie, they all had similar powers, and it's just that the previous 5 members didn't have the chance to transfer their powers before they died, or they couldn't find the right candidates, or they just didn't want to give it to anyone else. So they left the responsibility with the final wizard to transfer their powers onto the right kind of people or children. It's unfortunate that the character played by Mark Strong, when he was younger, wasn't chosen. And in some ways, I actually felt like he would have made him a better Shazam. I think it's unfortunate that they didn't feel like that beginning was enough, because I don't understand. He was perfectly cast for this kind of a weak kid who had like a bully of a dad and an asshole of a brother, and yet he's denied the power to help people in the world, and yet the generic, well-fed white kid is given the opportunity to become Shazam, and he plays the stereotypical, doesn't seem like he has any problems, but yet creates problems for himself type character by apparently being very skilled at breaking in police cars and all that, which means in no way is he a good person in respect of, following the law. And his only problem is the fact he's just been sent to really nice homes the whole time and he just runs away. But he lacks the tragic personality of someone who has gone through so many foster homes. He just seems like he's just moping a wee bit. But it doesn't take much for him to kind of get over the fact his mom didn't want him. It was just, okay. I would have rather you not been Shazam. I would have rather the first kid been Shazam. Because I think Mark Strong's kid character would have done a better job in respect to being a hero. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just my opinion. Maybe I just like Mark Strong better. but but he was picked, And the first perhaps quarter to half the movie, it's just him experimenting with powers, kind of like in a Spider-Man um, montage situation. I did enjoy the quirky foster brother, the one with the crutches. He was quite good, um, and he portrayed his role very nicely in respect of the fact he would be kind of bittered by the fact this generic white kid was given the powers and not him. Because it either points out, one, the film is just pandering to a certain audience, or two, based on the reality, the wizard is very stupid who he picks. Like, even when I was showing videos of all the people that he'd gone through, they just seem like really generic Disney kids, all very wholesome and very whatever, but they all seem to fail the test. But the test was like rigged. And to be fair, the kid who got the powers never had to do the test. So that's kind of a cop out. I didn't like that. Like, he didn't have to face the fact that perhaps he wasn't worthy either. It was just the fact the wizard was desperate and he was given the powers. That's not good. That's not a great origin story for a superhero. That's just a generically Disney kid showing up conveniently when the wizard no longer has a choice and takes the power even though he doesn't really deserve it. And I guess that was portrayed later on when he became the older Shazam, just fucking around and not really doing anything and just eating candy and earning money from people. But I guess that was the whole comedy of it, which is quite pleasant. I will say I enjoyed that aspect. And I guess if it had been like the other kid who played by Mark Strong, or even the foster brother with the crutches, I think that they would have taken it a lot more seriously, and I guess they would have been forced to integrate the rest of the DC universe, like Superman and the Flash and stuff, which they did for certain respects, mostly flashbacks and stuff, which is quite nice, I guess. But yeah, um, interesting. There was no actual love story involved in this situation. There was no kind of girl that he fancied. I imagine that would be in the next one. I was half thinking throughout the movie they were going to somehow make some kind of love connection between the older foster girl and him, but there's too much of an age gap for that to work. But yeah, there was no love interest in this. It was a very self-contained film. Um, there was no kind of if there was any kind of love interest, it was just primarily him searching for his mom. But the mom storyline was kind of mute by the time like it held no weight. It's not like he was distraught by it throughout the movie. He was distraught in the beginning, but it never really carried as a real serious thing. And I had to laugh though when I seen the actress playing the mom. Like, she didn't look any older when she showed up in that apartment block. She still looked the same age when she was 17. And when she said she was 17 when she had him, I was like, no, you weren't. You look like you're 26 years old. You're the oldest looking 17-year-old I've ever seen in my life. So, I think they could have just casted a second actress, someone younger, and not just trying to Back to the Future 2 the girl into an older woman, which all they did was cut her hair and change the color slightly and um, put her in the generic waitress outfit, which apparently adds like 30 years or something like that. Um, I find that the movie overall it was a very relaxing movie, very very contenting movie. I wasn't stimulated by any exciting moments, but perhaps that was just me. Uh, it had potential, Maybe in the next movie there'll be a bit more kind of gripping action, especially once I imagine they'll combine the rest of the DC universe into it. I wasn't really sure at the very end though, at the fairground, when all the rest of the kids gain powers, which I assume is the residual powers from the other wizards. Um, I didn't know there was more than one Shazam type character. I haven't really read the comics to understand whether that's an actual thing or was it just invented for the movies. Um, I never understood also why he broke the stick at the end. He had no knowledge to prove whether that stick could be broke and that it wouldn't like just turn off their powers. There was no reasoning for that. He could have just took the stick and hid the stick, you know, something, because otherwise there was no reasoning for it. Especially since they don't actually fully understand the powers, and it's really implying either one, he's a real dumb 14-year-old kid, maybe betrayed. He seems more clever when he's a kid than when he's a man. So I think the script that was written for the man actor of Shazam was really dumbed down in that respect. I don't know why he broke that stick. It just implies that he can never transfer his powers onto anyone else. Unless he can make another stick. But there's no knowledge. There's no earning of the power. There's no understanding of the power. Like, they're just kind of stumbling along. There's not even like an old wizard book with instructions of how to use the power. It's just, you have the power and that's it. Why wouldn't the wizard explain his powers before he transferred to him? He was very vague about them, especially for a wizard. And they're meant to be wizard powers. But don't you have to have like a fundamental understanding of how the power works to even wield it? But I guess that's the comedy of it all. There is no learning curve for these powers. It's just belief, apparently, that allows him to manifest any kind of abilities. Um, Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a power based on belief. If you believe in something long enough, with these powers, it manifests itself. Um, it never got into how the corrupted Shazam back in the day, how he even helped the seven deadly sins escape. Escape from where? There's no real origin about where the seven deadly sins came from, or can they be put back in? It seems not, and it seems like they're just contained in that floaty, bubbly ball. But still, decent movie in respect of its genre. It was a nice change of pace. So I give this movie 6 out of 10, perhaps 7 out of 10. I know it was a comedy. People were laughing in the cinema while I was watching, so I was made aware it was a comedy. So yeah, I'll give it a 6.5. 6.5. I think that's generous enough. I'll have to see how the second one pans out to really kind of give it some, to give it a good gusto score. Otherwise, I just think it's too premature to give this new type of DC film format a high score just because it's different. I think it has to earn it in the second movie. And I'll be very curious to see how the rest of the Shazam team develop, if at all. Or will they just merely leave it as a kind of a comedy trope? So yeah, that's my take on the movie. I didn't take any time to do much research in the mythology. I just wanted to give my current impression after I watched it. And I hope you watch it too, because it is worth the watch if you want to see something new from DC. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed my podcast. I'm hoping to make a new podcast probably by next week. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a good day. I'll see you later.